All right, Avery, it's all yours.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the June 3rd, 2021 Architectural Review Committee meeting. My name is Avery Kerner and I will be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting today. With me here is Becky Pepper, Planning Manager, and on Zoom, and also Lynn Broddick-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Currently, I have everyone muted so we can talk through the general ground rules for today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will later be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel following the meeting. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found on the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. This will make it easier for everyone to hear the meeting. Just remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. You can also turn your video camera on or off by clicking the video icon in the menu. For the purposes of this public meeting, when you are participating in the meeting, please keep your video on. When you are not participating in the meeting, it is okay to turn your video off. You will still be able to listen to the meeting when your video is off. You'll just have to remember to turn your video back on when you are participating. Turning your video off when you are not participating will help make sure that the active meeting participants can be seen on the screen. In some cases, I may turn someone's video off if they are not actively participating to avoid visual distraction during the meeting. You can always turn your video back on during the meeting. If you are participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. Committee members, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Members of the city staff must also state their name and title each time they speak. I would also like to ask applicants and members of the public to identify themselves each time before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. Again, I want to remind everybody to please mute yourself when you are not speaking. And now I will turn the meeting over to Lynn Broddick-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator.
Hello, everyone. This project that we're working on right now for an accessory structure at 1647 Vermont Street was at the May Historic Resources Commission meeting. Okay, Phil can't hear us. Phil,
I can hear you.
You can hear me, Chad?
I can hear you fine as well.
Let's send Phil a chat. Maybe he'll see that, but the problem may be on his end.
Phil, I think you might be on mute.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that if I held up progress.
That's okay. So we were just saying that this was on the May HRC meeting and they referred it to the Architectural Review Committee. There was concern about the size, scale, massing, and the height of the proposed accessory structure. And so just want to recap a little bit. We can screen share and show the drawings. Phil, I didn't receive any updated drawings from you.
That is correct. Not at this time. Right. So I would be good. It'd be good if you could share the drawings that were shared in the previous meeting. That would be good.
Okay, we'll go ahead and share, start with the site plan and then quickly switch to the elevations.
All right.
So that, we can all get a look at what's going on.
Is this?
Are we screen share?
Oh my God. There we go.
So this is the site plan showing the existing house on the right hand of the lot, and then the proposed new accessory structure to the west of that. And then we can look at the elevations, and these are the elevations that were submitted. One of the comments we talked about was roof form, and then some of the architectural detailing. And then I think the main issues were the size and the mass of the structure. So I guess I would open it up to members of the ARC to maybe talk about some of the issues that they see with the compatibility of the design.
This is Commissioner Foster. I thought we had pretty good discussion at the commission meeting, and was looking for the applicant to come with some sort of response to what they heard.
This is Phil Doherty with the architect that represents the Judy Green and Conrad Altenburn. I know we did talk about this. I think our concerns with that, and it could be our misperception or misunderstanding, that perhaps there was going to be more dialogue about the sizing of the house, what we thought would be appropriate before we redrew it. That was the only reason I had nothing at this time that we could resubmit. If that was our misunderstanding, I guess that's our apologies, and I can let Judy speak to that. But she had versed that the concern was that if we were going to scale the building down in terms of the footprint of the building, indifferent to what is already proposed, our concern is that we could make the footprint smaller for a one-car garage. Our biggest concern is that upstairs they would still need an upstairs, and that would still probably be an issue in terms of the height of the building. So even if we reduce the footprint of the building, we probably still enhance the height of it, or it wouldn't change much given that it doesn't have much latitude for headroom. On the adjacent structure, the primary structure is 1647 itself. It does have an upstairs, but it's not a very big upstairs given that it resides under its major roof form. And the amount of space that my client needs, it will need to be more significant than the primary space is offering. So that's why I think head height would still be an issue for this, at least for you all, in terms of the height that you have already negated that we proposed in the design. So my apologies for not having something resubmitted, but we felt that if we resubmitted something and got that wrong, we were just kind of spinning our tails. But if you feel different than that, please speak up. And if Judy has something to share, and I think she does, this would be a good time for her to talk.
Yes, thank you. I think I agree with everything that Phil said. And I guess our big question is, even if we reduce the footprint, is there something that would be acceptable for this committee to approve our plan with what we want? Like we said, we've already been negated on the drawing that we submitted, even though it was technically within the bounds of what we were required to do. So before we submit drawings that we don't know, we don't have any direction on what to do different than what we have been doing. Okay. So I guess my question to you is there something that you can envision, a plan that would allow us to fulfill our goal, whether we're going up or out or whatever? And if not, then we need to know that.
Okay, well, this is Commissioner Foster. I'll try to take a stab at a response. And Jay, I know you were at the meeting. Brenna, you were not. And I know there's not minutes available yet for the meeting, but I'll try to recap a little bit of the conversation, and Jay, certainly help if I get something wrong, and Lynn as well. But I think we gave you clear feedback that a two-story accessory structure and a flat roof accessory structure is not going to be acceptable in those environments. And I think this is all well articulated in the staff report. So you've seen it in writing. You've heard us verbalize that at the HRC meeting. I'm not seeing a reaction yet. Brenna, for your benefit, some of the discussion went as far as, you know, if a certain amount of square footage is needed by the applicant, you know, a far-flung idea is to be adding that to the primary structure, so the primary structure grows and stays the dominant structure, as opposed to putting all that square footage in the accessory structure. All sorts of possibilities. But I think the fundamental proposal here still is an accessory structure that dominates the primary structure, and that's just not going to be acceptable.
So, okay, thank you. So you're saying that there's nothing that we can do, that we can draw to accomplish our goals and still be within the confines of what you're requiring?
That is not what I said. This is Commissioner Foster.
Well, then I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding what we need to do differently. I've asked this question before and never gotten a clear answer. What do we need to do differently to scale it down to make it acceptable?
This is Commissioner Foster. I'm not sure how to respond to that request other than to, I guess I just really don't know how to respond to that.
You don't know how to respond.
I don't understand.
Yeah,
If there are parameters, we're trying to meet them.
yeah.
And we met what parameters we were given before, but I understand it was a subjective decision that it wasn't going to be good enough, even though it was technically good. So if I can't get any direction on what to do to make it be what you want it to be, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I did go back and watch some tape, and this is a common issue that we see. And these are common arguments that are presented. The ARC is not free design services. It has been made clear, I think both in writing and I wasn't there for verbal, but I think the staff report is pretty clear. It sounds like maybe you need to get with your architect, and that's what they do. That's what they're for.
Exactly, exactly. Phil, jump in there.
Well, I think,
Okay.
so where I'm going to go back to a comment that Commissioner Foster said. And if I understood him right, in terms of the height of the building, yeah, we had proposed a second floor. And did I hear you correctly, Commissioner Foster, that you feel that a second level would not be appropriate for this, given that it has the most to do with the height issue of this building? Would you agree or disagree with that? Or how else I guess before you answer that question, the concern, at least for the design of my client, they need an upstairs level above basically a garage below. Unless we make a bigger footprint, a single story building, I think it will still be too close to the existing facility, only because my client's not interested in doing an addition to 1647. At least that's my understanding. We are on a very tight site. This proposed plan already violates roughly about 6 to 10 feet of the rear setback. And even if we had it just right, we'd still have to go for a variance just for the size of this. So I guess I'll ask again, do you feel that a second story is going to be inappropriate because of the height restrictions that you are looking for? I guess that's the first question I want to get cleared on.
This is Commissioner Foster. A full 2-story accessory structure on a site that has a 1.5-story primary structure is the problem. I could imagine a small accessory structure that has a small second level to it, but I can't imagine a full 2-story structure, which is what you've depicted as being acceptable.
Okay. This is Phil Doherty again. You said a small second level. I'm not sure what that means. I don't, but
What does that mean?
so here, I guess as the architect, this is where I'll go, or I'll take this approach. If we attempted to revise this structure to look a lot like the primary structure and have only partial height upper level, and I guess what I mean by partial height is to assimilate 1647 itself. You basically have headroom for about maybe 5 feet of width before you start having the roof come down on you. Unless like for example, on A5, it's currently shown. And if we're looking at in the upper right-hand corner, the number 2 proposed south elevation, which shows the garage doors and the dormers above that. If we were able to maintain, say, the right side roof form, which matches the primary structure, okay, that's a simple gable roof. You can see that we have the issue of very little headroom to walk around in there, just basically where that window profile is to the right. But if we were to keep a low profile roof that way and actually be a gable roof, I would probably have to have a succession of dormers just to kind of give some head height in that tight roof space, which is a lot like what 1647 already is. So I don't know how else to make a second level space that's required by my client that doesn't have the flat roof impact of the proposed structure. I get that. That's what's making it kind of disproportionate. I don't disagree on that. But I don't know how else to make a livable upstairs space that denies the headroom to make that area usable. Unless, of course, I just go to a single story accessory structure that I assume will have to be bigger than the footprint as currently proposed on this secondary structure, only because they'll need that room back. So if that made any sense, does that seem like an appropriate direction? If I sacrifice the upstairs, what I have to, I guess I would take that square footage and somehow add that to a lower level floor plate, but a bigger footprint. Is that going to be offensive to the review board?
This is Commissioner Foster. I would suggest that you can go back to the staff report and look for language where the accessory structure, whether it's in footprint or height or massing, should not dominate the primary structure. So, unfortunately, it's a pure gray area, and it's a judgment call, and it's going to require, collective input on to how far you can go. I suppose there's no rule, there's no formula to unfortunately follow. But you can only get so big. You're only going to be able to get so much square footage, and that may or may not meet your client's program. I don't know.
This is Judy. How much square footage? I'm not asking for free architectural guidance here from your committee. I'm asking for some parameters, whether they're percentages, whether they're square footages. I mean,
Can we have a
This is Commissioner Foster. I will repeat something that's said at the meeting that you may have not heard, that for rough guidance, I would say something in the ballpark of your existing accessory structure. Now, perhaps taller, since it's a relatively short structure and doesn't have a functional second level to it at all. But your existing accessory structure is in the ballpark of the correct scale in relationship to your primary structure. That's something I said at the meeting. So if you're looking for some guidance and a starting point, I would recommend starting there.
I guess I'm not really.
This is Commissioner Hawley. Just again,
really,
this is not.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Apologies. Just if you add up from a volume perspective, if you just do the simple comparison of even the existing, not even the existing accessory structure, the existing primary structure of 1647, I believe the new proposed accessory structure is in fact larger than the primary structure. I mean, that is a subordinate when the new structure is volumetrically larger than the existing.
Is that right, Phil? Is that bigger?
Volumetrically, if you're saying you include the upstairs, yeah, the volume would probably be bigger, but the footprint is still smaller than 1647. So if we're talking purely from a volumetric standpoint, Commissioner Hawley, the volume would probably be a little bit bigger, but still the floor print or the area, I should say, from the ground level of the secondary structure is still smaller than the primary structure. And I show those differences on the site plan.
So which was it?
This is Commissioner Foster, but going back to the staff reports, staff evaluated this and made their recommendations, and I don't know if you'll even see the word footprint in the staff report. Scale and massing is inappropriate.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I also have an issue with the footprint. The fact that you are going to need a variance for this to, so even if we say yes, they could say no. That's just another layer of review that you're not meeting the metrics that have been provided to you that you need to meet.
Well, I guess, excuse me,
Sorry,
This-
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. We haven't looked at this to see if it would require a variance. As an accessory structure, it can be in the rear yard setback. So that's not something that we determined whether or not their proposal would need a variance.
I see. Thanks for that clarification, Lynn. Thank you.
Commissioner Buchanan, I apologize. I was late to the party. I guess.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine, Commissioner. No problem. I appreciate that Lynn clarified that because I was going to agree with your statement. Yeah, variance is a challenge too, but we're just trying to get to the size aspect and I can try to redesign this. I mean, my concern, again, this is Phil Doherty, the architect representing both Judy and Conrad. We have a challenge. I have the challenge as the architect to try to get the square footage needs that my client needs. And that puts me in a tough position to try, one, to satisfy the needs that they need for both a secondary structure as far as living above the garage structure below, and then two, trying to fit it on the site within its boundaries. And then three, obviously, I do understand the Architectural Review Committee's concerns about the massing and scale in contrast to 1647. So those are all pretty serious challenges for me. And I'm certainly not afraid of any of that. I think the only thing I can propose is to do, if you're okay with this, and I don't know how formal the next resubmission has to be, if my clients decide to do a resubmission for your review. But without a whole lot of time, I guess I can do a series of sketches to modify a smaller structure, if you think that would work, in terms of elevations and a floor plan, without spending a lot of time on a computer doing a hard line drawing as you see being presented before you. If I did a series of sketches within a week or so, that might try to describe what Commissioner Foster and everybody's looking for. Is that just a resolution for now? Or perhaps the question to my clients, do they want to proceed?
Proceed with what? We're still
Yeah,
looking. Can we build a one-story garage? Can we build a 400 square foot garage? You know, the question is, can we put an upstairs on it? If we can't put an upstairs on it, no matter how small the footprint is, I'd say we're done.
Okay.
You know, so tell me, can I build a 400 square foot garage, 400 square foot footprint with something above it? Is that possible?
This is Commissioner Foster. Do we know the square footage of the existing structures?
That's
First floors and second
It's probably
floors.
on the site plan.
Yes, it is on the site plan. I can pull mine up. I'm on a separate computer.
Okay, got it.
Existing is right there.
The Commissioner Foster, the existing home footprint for 1647 is approximately 822 square feet. And the new accessory that we're proposing is 668 square feet. That's the area of the footprint.
Phil, what's the area of the existing garage right now?
The existing garage,
Yes,
give me just a second. I have that on another site plan. Give me just a second. The existing garage footprint is 409 square feet.
so if we build another garage, it was 409 square feet, are we allowed to put a second story on, or is that not a go? With a pitched roof, not a flat roof?
This is Commissioner Foster. Yeah, I believe we've been clear that the full two-story is the problem, but
Tell me, just say, no, you can't do that. Is that right? I cannot do that.
a full two-story, I think, is a problem. A half story above a garage
Half story, what's that?
seems reasonable.
I'm not sure what a half story is. Half story would be like the existing house.
Correct.
So we could do a half story on a 400 square foot garage.
This is Commissioner Buchanan, potentially, yes.
Potentially, okay.
It's a great place to start.
Well, good, good.
Okay.
We should have started here a long time ago. You know, we just needed some more guidelines. If we can't, if the square footage was too big or whatever, and if that existing one, what was it, Phil? The existing garage?
The existing garage is 409 square feet. That's what I calculated based on our field measurements.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I don't have anything else.
yeah. I don't have anything else either. I'm done. You guys,
Okay, well, as the architect, if I can try to propose something and get that submitted.
if you can able to turn in some sketches or something and not a full drawing again,
Mhm.
get past it.
Yeah, would that
We
be
can talk
acceptable,
on the
Commissioner?
side.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll talk to Phil on the side. See if
Okay.
we-
This is Commissioner Foster. In the good old days, we would be sitting in a conference room with sketch paper and working through this live, but we can't resume doing that quite yet, apparently. So yes, informal sketches are encouraged to pass around ideas.
okay.
All right.
Judy, would you like me to do that?
We'll talk
We'll
about
speak
it.
to you on the side.
Yeah.
That's fine. Not a problem.
Thanks for
Okay.
hearing us.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Phil, if you want to put together some sketches, if that's what y'all decide to do, then you can just email those to me and I can get them out to the review committee and then we can get you some response to what you're proposing. And sometimes it takes a little bit of back and forth, as Chad mentioned. Usually we're sitting at a table and we can do all this together and look at sketches and what will and won't work. We're a little bit hindered by having to do these meetings on Zoom that we can't do that. So it really would be you drawing up some sketches. They don't have to be full line drawings.
Okay.
Getting those to me and then I can get them to the ARC members and we can get you some feedback.
All right. I appreciate that, Lynn. Of course, I will talk to my clients to see if that's what they want to do. And if they do, if they proceed with that, then I'll send you something as soon as I can. And I'll let you know. I'll keep you advised. I appreciate listening to the commissioning staff and thank you for your time.
If you, for whatever reason, decide that that is not the way you want to go and you want to proceed with the application as submitted, then we would put this back on the Historic Resources Commission agenda for them to take a full vote.
Okay.
If they voted to deny the application, then you could always appeal that determination to the city commission. So there is an appeal process for you.
Understood. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, commissioners. With all respect, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to us.
Thank you, Phil.
Commissioners, if you would like to take a little break, our next applicant is not going to be here till 5. We'll keep the meeting rolling. If you can join us back at 5. Sorry, I thought this one would take a little bit longer. So I apologize about the time lapse. It's another thing that's fun with trying to do this on Zoom and get everybody together. So we will get back together like maybe a few minutes before 5 and resume the meeting if that's okay with you.
This is Commissioner Foster. Any chance that those folks could be contacted to maybe start at 4:45 or was 5 the earliest they could go?
5 was the time we gave them. I can send them an email and see if they respond.
Okay, well, I'll pause, but I'll probably check back in at 4:45 or something like that to see if maybe we can start a little bit earlier.
Okay.
Thanks.
Lynn, this is Commissioner Hawley. As a matter of protocol, do we need to formally close the meeting, or is that good enough?
That's fine. It's just a committee member, it's just a committee meeting, so it doesn't have to be formalized. We'll just put a pause on and then resume at 5. If not earlier.
Okay.
Thank you, Aretha. Okay, we will go ahead and get started then, now that we have everybody here. Good evening and welcome to the June 3rd, 2021 Architectural Review Committee meeting.
Good evening, everybody.
My name is Avery Kerner, and I will be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting today. With me here is Becky Pepper, Planning Manager, and Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Currently, I have everyone muted so that we can talk through the general ground rules for today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will later be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel following the meeting. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found on the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. This will make it easier for everyone to hear the meeting. Just remember to unmute it if and when you want to speak. You can also turn your video camera on or off by clicking the video icon in the menu. For purposes of this public meeting, when you are participating in the meeting, please keep your video on. When you are not participating in the meeting, it is okay to turn your video off. You will still be able to listen to the meeting when your video is off. You'll just have to remember to turn your video back on when you are participating. Turning your video off when you are not participating will help make sure that the active meeting participants can be seen on the screen. In some cases, I may turn someone's video off if they are not actively participating to avoid visual distraction during the meeting. You can always turn your video back on during the meeting. If you are participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. Committee members, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Members of city staff must also state their name and title each time they speak. I would also ask that applicants and members of the public identify themselves each time before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. Again, I want to remind everyone to please mute yourself when you are not speaking. And now I will turn the meeting over to Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator.
Good evening, everyone. Well, it's almost evening now. It's after 5, so I guess we'll call it evening. This project, 1704 Tennessee Street, was at your May Historic Resources Commission meeting. At that meeting, there were concerns about the overall size and scale of the proposed accessory structure. There were questions about the height. Is it related to the existing historic structure? And then there were some questions about materials. So the Historic Resources Commission referred this to the Architectural Review Committee to work with the applicant on those issues to see if there was a way to find a design that would meet the applicant's goals while meeting or better meeting the standards and guidelines. So I have not had any additional information from the applicant, so we may just want to start and kind of go over what the proposal is. And I know the applicant said they did have the height of the existing structure now. So Aretha, if you want to just kind of briefly share with us what that is and what changes y'all have looked at since the meeting.
The existing structure is 32 feet tall.
And do you have the height of the proposed structure?
Yes, 22 feet tall.
Okay. Then I would open it up for ARC members to ask any questions or start the dialogue about items that we discussed at the commission meeting that would need to be addressed.
This is Commissioner Foster. Other things I remember discussing were the roof pitch, making sure that the two are compatible. I think there was an assertion at the meeting that they were identical from the drawing you have up and from the picture from the agenda. That does not appear to be the case. There was also discussion about the drop off of the site, and it looks like you had a site plan on that did have grading information or contour information that we thought was unavailable. So that's good to have. And then, yeah, I believe the motion that passed included sort of character of the proposed structure, including material in response to the vertical siding, and even window types. Looks like sliders are proposed, and the primary structure is a typical double hung window, it looks like. So yeah, those are some of the things I'd like to hear discussed.
So where would you like to start, sir?
That was kind of a random list, wherever you would like.
Okay, so I'm looking at the materials list. Give me 1 second. Let's start with the windows. So there's 3 windows, 48 by 48 and 36 by 36. Oh, that's fine.
Lynn Braddock, Zollner Historic Resources Administrator. So Aretha, are you saying there are only 3 windows total because the design that was submitted has windows on 3 sides of the structure with only 1 side not having windows?
I am looking at the specifications from the drawings that I have, and that's where I'm getting my numbers from. So windows, there's 3 windows, 48 by 48 and 36 by 36.
And yeah, this is Commissioner Foster. I guess what I'm looking for is the applicant willing to alter the window types to match the primary structure, alter the siding to be more compatible with the primary structure, and alter the roof pitch to be compatible with the primary structure?
The siding type is textured plywood, which is what's on here on the current structure. They're both wood structures, sir.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Foster. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at a photograph from the agenda. It looks like it's a pretty historic structure that would have looks like the original wood lap siding that's running horizontal.
That's correct.
And you're proposing vertical plywood.
All I'm saying is that they are both plywood, sir. You're referring to the garage as vertical and then horizontal that's on the current structure. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I'm looking at a photo of the existing house.
Okay, what do you want to know? I'm sorry.
Are you willing to adjust the siding and the proposed structure to be more compatible with the existing house?
How about if, can we flip-flop that and put the existing house with the vertical, because I do need to replace some siding on the existing.
This is Commissioner Foster. I'm wanting to punt that to Lynn. I don't know what sort of process that has to go through, but vertical siding, I'm going to guess, is not something that is typical in the environs that we're discussing.
And can I also mention that the garage, you will not even be able to see it from the street unless you go into the backyard. You won't be able to see it as far as it being compatible.
Yeah, and this is Commissioner Foster, and I, from my perspective, the location and the drop of the grade is going to definitely help on the scale and massing issue from my perspective. It's going to help this accessory structure appear to be subordinate. But again, I'm speaking for myself, and other commissioners can chime in if and when they choose. I'm looking for compatible materials, compatible forms, compatible windows between accessory structure and primary structure.
This is Commissioner
This
Buchanan.
is Commissioner Hawley.
Go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, after you, Commissioner, but after you.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I think to clarify, we would, I am also seeking the same things that Commissioner Chow was saying. Are you willing to rotate your siding, look at double hung windows instead of sliding windows? Possibly just a couple other design details.
Sure.
So if you're, this is Commissioner Buchanan again. And so could you submit another drawing that shows the siding rotated horizontal to be more similar and compatible to what's existing in the environs and your own house, along with the material changes in the windows?
I could submit material changings, drawings, no, because I've already paid for these drawings.
This is Commissioner Foster. I will ping Glenn on this one, but I'm, just to get through city approval, I think the drawings would have to end up matching what you intend to build.
So so in order to be compatible with the environs, you want horizontal siding on the garage, as well as the windows being sliding sliding up and down instead of left to right. If I'm following you, and to be sure, changing the siding on the house would not be something that you would agree with, or would you?
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I don't see how that fits within the existing context and the patterns within your neighborhood. I personally would feel that it's not congruent with those patterns and therefore would not support it.
Can I just say, can we pull up the pictures that I shared during the first meeting? There are a lot of houses in this neighborhood that isn't uniform with everything else. Brand new, tore down, existing houses.
I don't think so. I don't believe that this is Avery Kerner with planning staff. I don't believe that we have those photos to share.
I submitted them during the initial meeting. I can pull them up though if you'd like.
All right, this is Avery Kerner, planning staff. If you have those available and you're able to screen share, you can do so. I can just let me know and I can stop sharing so that you can.
I don't have them readily available, but I could try and get.
Well, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I think right now we are looking at the plans that have been proposed and submitted for, which are absent of any additional work to the existing structure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn, anybody? So
What do you mean when you say absent?
There's nothing on this is Commissioner Buchanan. I don't see anywhere in this submission proposes for your existing structure. Like, does this plan show that you want to change the siding on your existing house?
No, it does not.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is I'd like to focus on the application that is in front of us and that has been submitted.
In order to meet your guidelines, vertical will have to go horizontal on the siding for the garage, as well as the windows have to be changed. Are there any other changes that are necessary?
This is Commissioner Foster. I would recommend that the roof pitch be more compatible with the primary structure.
What do you mean by that?
One is shallower. The proposed structure is a shallow roof and the existing structure is a steeper roof. And you claimed during the meeting that they were the same and they appear to not be.
Well, they're both
A-frame.
yes.
They're both A-frame.
When you say pitch, you mean it has to be steeper? You want more of a
Correct.
steep roof?
The steepness of the roof slopes.
How much steeper? I don't understand. You want it exactly like a house? Is that what you're saying?
This is Commissioner Foster. That would be ideal, yes.
The garage that was here prior didn't have that type of pitch at all. It was torn down, but it didn't have a steep pitch like the house, not at all. So I'm just wondering where your guidelines are coming from in relationship to this dwelling and its historic nature and its original nature, because I'll repeat, the garage that was here before it was torn down because it was old and dilapidated didn't have a steep pitch like the house.
And
So
this is Commissioner
are you just
Foster.
saying that this case warrants, your guidelines now say the house has to have the garage, any secondary structure has to have the same pitched roof as the house, kind of hard to, okay, if it's feasible to do within the plans, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem, but to match it perfectly, that might be a bit, this is a prefab garage. It comes as a kit. So in order to change the structure of the roof, basically you're saying, start over again, and that structure is not necessary because as purchased, to change the pitch of the roof would require some adjusting, a great deal of adjusting, since it's prefab, and it's a kit that you put together. Unless you can share with me how that can be done easily.
Lynn, I just sent you some pictures of the structures in the neighborhood.
And this is Commissioner Hawley. I'll just comment on a few different items where, we've discussed that some of the primary points worth discussing are the overall massing, the roof pitch, the windows, the siding. To me, the single largest of those is massing. And with the site plan, doing some chicken scratch math, because there's not exact floor elevations, but if the existing structure is 32 feet tall, if we look at the topo ballpark, plus or minus inches, not feet, there's 3 feet of fall in the grade, so that 32 minus 22 with this roof form minus 3 feet of the drop off, that the roof form of this, when viewed from the street, plus or minus inches, would be 13 feet lower than the primary structure, if I'm doing my math right, which to me addresses the biggest issue of the massing. The windows, I think, seems like a pretty easy switch to something more like a double hung, if the applicant would consider that. I would be curious on the other commissioners, just for feedback on whether on roof pitch or siding. I agree because the roof pitch does not match the original structure, but it isn't out of character with some of the roof pitches on other structures on this block. Like I pulled up a Google image map where ballpark, it's probably a similar pitch on the house next door, where it might not be perfectly complementary to the existing structure, but it certainly does have precedent in the immediate vicinities. Would just be curious on what roof pitch, on how hard the other commissioners would feel about requiring an exact match, or if that could be something that goes back to the HRC with a combo of guidance from here.
Lynn Braddock Zollner. Oh, go ahead, Chad.
This is Commissioner Foster. I appreciate the comments, Jay. I'm just hesitant to use a structure that predates any action of the HRC, predates any guidelines or any regulations as much of a precedent. Certainly, we have a lot of those around, but I guess I'm a medium on the roof pitch, you know, that I would strongly recommend it. If it was the one remaining issue, I'm not sure that would cause me to not support the project, but not looking for an exact match, going back to the applicant's comments, but typically wood structures are framed, you know, with common pitches of 2 to 12, 3 to 12, 4 to 12, you know, 6 to 12, that types of thing. So the existing structure is probably one of those. I would think that even in a prefab environment, different typical roof pitches are available, though that is just speculation on my part.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I think I'm more concerned over the overall kind of mass and size. So I'd be willing to give a little on the roof form if we were able to shrink the footprint. When I'm looking at the plans, I see that there's an optional rear elevation with an exterior stair and a porch. Would it be possible to minimize the footprint by removing the interior staircase and just using the exterior optional rear porch as this? You know, would that be something that to consider as a way to overall shrink the footprint and help with some of that, the disproportionate, or help it be more subordinate?
So you're saying not to have the stairs on the inside and have them on the outside? That would increase the footprint. You can't even see the stairs at the way it currently is.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I'm looking at the plans that were submitted for the last HRC meeting. And they're on sheet 3. They show a rear elevation with optional porch. And if we use that as the staircase in lieu of the interior staircase, so that way you don't have both, you only have the exterior, and we can shrink your footprint. And maybe I'm alone on this. This is Commissioner Buchanan. I'd be more concerned with the size and mass. And if there's a way to minimize that, I'd be willing to budge a little on the roof pitch.
And the mass is already smaller than the current structure.
How much?
This is Commissioner Buchanan. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking what you proposed and making what you proposed smaller. Not compared to your existing, but compared to
Well, that's how we started out. The original argument was that the garage was going to be bigger than the current structure. So how did we get to where we are now?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Let me try to gauge a little bit of what some of the commissioners have said. So my understanding would be if the siding were changed to lap siding, horizontal siding, and the windows were changed to be more of a double hung window instead of sliders, that those two things would be agreed upon by the Historic Resources, the Architectural Review Committee. Would that be a fair statement? Would the applicant agree to those two changes?
Yes.
So then the next discussion point would be the pitch of the roof. I know Commissioner Foster has said that he would like to see a steeper pitched roof. Commissioner Buchanan said she is willing to discuss the existing pitch. And Commissioner Hawley has also said that he would entertain the existing pitch. Is that an appropriate summation of where each commissioner is? Then Commissioner,
Yes, Lynn.
thank you. Then Commissioner Buchanan Young brought up the idea of taking out the interior staircase, which creates that door that's shown on the right-hand side of the front elevation that makes a structure smaller than what's proposed. Are there any thoughts from Commissioner Foster or Commissioner Hawley on that idea?
How are you supposed to get inside besides raising the garage door?
This is Commissioner Foster. I can totally appreciate Brenna's suggestion and commentary, considering that, some of the strong concerns at the meeting, and it was the number one issue by one commissioner on, just sort of the mass and scale. And sometimes that's a sort of shrink the volume and the footprint. Sometimes that's changing the height. But considering that would be coming from, that reduction would be happening, it looks to me like at the rear property line, I guess that's just not a big concern of mine. With the drop off the site, I'm less concerned about the mass and scale issue and more concerned about the materials and the and coordination with the primary structure.
Commissioner Hawley, and I'd agree with that sentiment. Given the location on the site, though, it's a clever idea, but I'd just be I think it doesn't concern me as is. To make that work as the entry, we'd have to the applicant would have to introduce more hardscape on the site. That I think as is, it's not a concern of mine.
Commissioner Buchanan, fair enough. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Are there any other details that the ARC members would like to discuss on this? Then do we have consensus on taking this back to the Historic Resources Commission with a recommendation for horizontal lap siding, double hung windows without changes to the roof pitch? Or would you rather have the report say with decision split on the roof pitch?
This is Commissioner Foster. I think a split is fine, and then we could discuss it and see who wants to make a motion for which one.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Does the applicant have questions of the committee?
Are we in agreement on the sidings and the windows? Is that,
They're gonna vote on
or do you have to vote on that?
This is Commissioner Foster. I don't think we take formal votes at the committee. It's just Lynn's trying to see where consensus is, and then the formal vote would be at the next HRC meeting.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. So Aretha, are y'all okay with changing the siding to horizontal lap siding
Yes, ma'am.
and changing the windows to a double hung instead of a slider?
Yes.
Okay, so then I think where we have consensus is on those two items. And so this will go back to the Historic Resources Commission with a recommendation from the Architectural Review Committee to approve a project with horizontal lap siding and double hung windows, and to have further discussion with the full commission on the roof pitch.
This is Commissioner Foster. I think it would be good to attempt to summarize what Commissioner Holly computed, to acknowledge in the report that the proposed structure is substantially lower than what our understanding was at the meeting, because that was a concern of a number of folks. You know, the whole story of subordination.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Commissioner Holly, can you get with me before the, like early next week to go over those numbers?
Commissioner Holly, sure thing. If convenient, I could do a markup just in Bluebeam with some dimensions, not a architectural drawing, but to show how that math arrived, that will ballpark show where it would be.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator, that would be perfect. Do any of the committee members have any questions for the applicant?
Commissioner Holly, not a question, just a comment. One, thank you for taking the time to meet. I think this will be a successful project. With any changing of the changing of the orientation of the siding, this is just one thing to look out for. Is it does with the plans, the rotation of the siding, I don't think would affect the structural integrity of this prepackaged, the structure in any way. But I believe if you would want to follow the plans and not orient the plywood at the corners that's acting to for building shear, that is a very non-official, just make sure you're looking at that comment and don't think that we're asking to rotate the shear wall plywood. It's just what we look at.
Just on the outside, thank you. Right?
Correct.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Does the applicant have any questions of the committee members?
No, thank you for your time.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I just want to clarify, I know we've all agreed on rotating to a horizontal. I thought we had also agreed to lap siding instead of plywood. Or did I miss that?
This is Commissioner Foster. I don't think we specifically discussed, while I would very much prefer lap siding in the spirit of compromise, I've just only been suggesting taking the siding horizontal. Yeah, ideally, in a typical situation, we would be mandating that the materials match the primary structure, to all extents reasonable, considering the location of this on the site. I am okay, sort of. I'm okay with just rotating the siding.
Commissioner Holly?
Commissioner Holly, similar comments. Lap would be ideal, but given the location on the site, a horizontal would not be a horizontal sheet siding would not be something I'd stomp my feet over.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Thank you for clarifying where we're at with that. And I agree with the others that the horizontality is more important, although lap would be preferred.
Lynn Braddock, Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to thank the applicant and commissioners for taking the time out to work on this. I'd like to echo Commissioner Holly. I think it'll be a very successful project and look forward to seeing this on the June HRC meeting.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.